Welcome back, everybody. Today we are joined by Byron Mims the fourth. He has been working in real estate for 8 years as a full-time agent. In that time period, he's been able to help over 60 families buy and sell real estate. He ranks in the top 20% in his office of over 600 plus agents here at Keller Williams in the Charlotte market. So, Byron, welcome to the show. Glad to have you here today.
Drew, it's a pleasure to be on. Good to see you, sir.
The rare time where I'm outclassed in the hair department by a guest. It's a pleasure to have you.
I appreciate that.
Well, hey, we're going to cover a few things today. I want to start at the beginning of this conversation, really just talking about the greater Charlotte market as a whole and give some people some insight into that. So right now, would you describe the market as more of a buyer's market or a seller's market in the Charlotte area?
That's a great question, Drew. So, I mean, technically, we are in the seller's market just based on what inventory levels are, but I would say buyers have more leverage than they've ever had in the past 3 or 4 years currently right now. So I think there's a lot of opportunities. So it's kind of like it's a tough question to answer, as it's, like I said, inventory wise, it's a seller's market, but buyers have lots of opportunity because inventory has grown a lot over the last, year or so. So it's a mixed bag kind of.
Interesting. So yeah, we kind of COVID times, you went from maybe 7 to 12 days worth of inventory to now what are we roughly sitting at?
Somewhere around 3 months, maybe just over 3 months.
Yeah. So a very drastic change from, the last 3 to 4 years of what people are used to. And when you say, seller's market, how would that traditionally be defined if it was a data point to get to a full on buyer's market?
Yeah. So what traditionally is considered a seller's market is 5 months of inventory or less is considered a seller's market. 6 months is considered a balanced market, and anything over 6 months is considered a buyer's market.
So awesome. I appreciate you clarifying that. I think we haven't been in one of those in a long time. So I think it's a good refresher for people. You mentioned that it's a bit of a mixed bag though. So with inventory technically still being a seller's market, what are some things you're seeing for buyers out in the real estate market that we haven't seen over the last 3 to 4 years on home purchases?
Yeah. So I mean, a lot more opportunity for buyers. You're seeing obviously prices. I don't know if they're technically coming down. I wouldn't say they're coming down. I would say they're plateauing. But buyers have more opportunity to negotiate closing costs, stuff like that. Where, like you said, COVID, like there's really no opportunity to negotiate. You better put your best offer in. A lot of times they were having to waive inspections and stuff like that. Where now it's definitely flipped. And then closing costs are on the table for buyers. Obviously, inspections are there. Not that I would ever tell you not to do an inspection regardless, but so it's a lot more opportunity for buyers currently.
Yeah, that lines up a lot with what we're seeing. Probably 80-90% of the contracts we're seeing are coming over with seller concessions, or if they're not coming over with, seller concessions at the beginning, we're seeing concessions after the inspection period gets completed. So yeah, it feels wildly different despite the data not saying that we're in a buyer's market. Buyers certainly have more opportunities today than they've had in the last few years.
That they definitely do.
Well, that's a good thing. It's good to get a little more balance here. And from a home price perspective, I saw something yesterday. We're talking here at the beginning of September. Charlotte's actually still kind of up 2.8% year to date, which is a good thing, right? That's a return to normalization. Can you talk about kind of setting expectations for sellers that, hey, gone are the days of getting 50% appreciation in 24 months?
Yeah, man, it's that's the tough part right now with sellers because I feel like many sellers are still living in the 21, 22 time where, two of like the greatest markets we've ever had for sellers and real estate. Um, so I think it's just really like pounding down into the information and letting them know, like, hey, look, this is what the market is showing us. And now what our options are is, hey, we can either price it for negotiation or we can price it for competition. Which do you prefer? Because typically, if we can price it for competition and we can get multiple buyers, that's when you're going to get the most money versus the old thinking and logic that a lot of sellers think by is, hey, let me price it up here because I can leave room here to negotiate down. and then that leaves the buyer in control of the negotiations. Where if you price it at market or maybe even just below market, you're driving more attention there with the more likelihood that you're going to get a couple of buyers. And once you get a couple of buyers, then you don't know where the price could go. So, and then that keeps the seller in control of the negotiations versus the opposite.
Man, I love that. Price for negotiation or price for competition. What are you seeing? Like are sellers, what's a typical seller wanting to do? Are they kind of taking your advice and pricing for competition, or they still have, these expectations of let's start high and come down?
Man, I would love to say that they all listen to us, but unfortunately they don't. I think, what I think I'm seeing is if it's a client that I've had that's worked with me before and trust me, they're more likely to price it properly and get it that way. Whereas people that you've just met, through however you met them and you explain this to them, it's a little harder for them, I guess, probably to trust you and realize that, hey, that might be the better route. So it's definitely a challenge right now to try to get sellers to understand that concept.
Awesome. And just to add a little color for everybody listening, right? So what Byron's talking about is, let's say that, the house is worth 500,000 and you have a seller that wants to start at 530. Byron, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but are you almost suggesting, hey, maybe we price this thing at 490 and we get a lot of eyeballs on it and try to drive a lot of interest, and maybe we end up at 530 as opposed to starting at 530 and saying, well, we hope we get, the right buyer to come through and they write the offer. Does that line up with what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And again, a lot of things that we see that sellers don't see is, one thing that plays into that is like search engines, right? So everybody looks on Zillow and those other platforms. Well, also if you look at those platforms, the pricing criteria for their searches are in $50,000 increments. So like for in your example, if you're pricing at 530 versus 500, right? You're in between two price points. So you could actually be missing out on buyers that have their price up to 500, and so they don't ever see your property. And so by pricing it at 500, number one, you're probably getting more eyes on it because you're getting the people that are at top of their budget and then the people that are at the bottom of their budget, middle of their budget, whatever. And so you're getting more eyes on your property, which is likely going to bring you more people in and buy it. So that's one other thing to kind of consider too when you're pricing it.
That's a really good point. Traffic and eyeballs and interest are always the most important thing about selling the home, or at least getting a contract on the home.
Yeah, I mean the goal is to get as many people as possible because your best outcome is going to come when you have more people looking at your house versus the opposite, right?
Yep. Awesome. Let's talk a little bit about open houses right now. Like, what are you seeing there? Are sellers gung ho about doing them? Are you doing them? What does the open house market look like these days?
Yeah, I've definitely been doing them. Probably not as many as I should be, but I'm doing them. I think most sellers are definitely open to having them done. I mean, I think that again, that's one thing about talking to your seller and seeing, because some don't want it, some do want it. So it's always important to ask them if they want it. But I think open houses are a great source to get people in and try to draw interest, into the home. So, and I think it's just, I think you really have to put thought into your open house, where some agents just, hey, they put some signs out and like they'll show up and like I'll hang out here. Well, it's like really putting interest in it, doing the work before the open house as well as work after the open house to make sure the open house is successful.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. I want to talk to you a little bit. We've had your partner, Adam Jupiter, on this podcast before.
I'm sorry.
I did not get into him. I did not get into this much with him, but you guys have done an awesome job, and hats off to you for, getting out in the community and actually knocking on people's doors. What is the best story you have from door knocking in your career so far?
Man, there's so many. But I don't know if you saw recently, I got bit by a dog while door knocking. So that's definitely a good one. But man, I mean, the outfits that some people answer the door in. Some people early on when we first started together, Adam got called a fat boy and ugly head by a homeowner. So it's part of the draw. It makes it fun. Like we try to have fun with it. So there, I mean, dude, there's so many stories. Probably some that I can't even tell on here.
Well, more power to y'all for doing that. I mean, that's, for other agents listening out here. I mean, these guys are generating a lot of business by just being active in the community and going out and meeting people that way. So, more power to you there. Uh, I want to ask you one more question on the market here. So, any any kind of hidden challenges or opportunities out there for buyers and sellers right now?
So I mean, opportunity for buyers. I think there's a lot of opportunity for buyers again with the way the market is. So I think buyers that focus strictly on interest rates, I think they're losing opportunity. I think you should focus on what your monthly payment is and what you can afford, right? That's what's important. The interest rates are always going to fluctuate because if it continues in the direction it's going to, more buyers are going to jump in, which is going to be more competition. So though interest rates might go down, prices might go up, and then it's kind of like a wash. Where right now you probably have opportunity because still people are waiting for the interest rate to come down to a certain point. On the seller side, I think what we run into a lot door knocking is, hey, someone put their house in the market because they were looking at one particular home, and then they tried to get their house on the market real quick, and then it fell through because they were a contingent offer, which I think a lot of sellers don't think about. That is like, hey, let's come up with a plan if you're thinking about doing it, getting your house on and buying the house, because there can be a lot of challenges there trying to time the market with selling and buying at the same time. It's possible to do. We actually got one right now where we did it, but uh, it's better to have a plan, right? Proper planning prevents poor performance. So I think that's one challenge for sellers.
Awesome. So yeah, I think just to dive a little deeper on that, right? Like when we talk about buying and selling at the same time, right? I think it can be daunting. I think people can be fearful of it. I think, and the stars have to align. So when that is happening, how do you keep all sides of the party engaged, calm? Hey, this is, yes, there are a lot of moving parts here, but this is how we're going to accomplish it. What can you just walk us through, like what goes into that when you're buying and selling at the same time?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the key thing to this and this business is communication, right? So if you have proper communication through both sides of the transactions with both the agents, with the buyers, the sellers, that's going to help to, make everything a little more cohesive so everybody knows what's going on, everybody knows what needs to be done to keep everything on track and continuing in the right direction. So to me, I think the key is proper communication.
Okay, awesome. Well, Byron, thanks for the insight here on the market. Let's take this a little different direction here. Let's talk about your process, service, how you work with your clients, and why they continue to come back to you here in the future. So, in that vein, how would you define great service for your clients, Byron?
I mean, I think great service is number one, finding out what it is your client's goals and ambitions are for their transaction, right? So many times when someone comes to an agent and, it tells you, hey, I want to buy or sell, right? We're ready. All right, let's jump right on it. But we're not really asking the deeper questions to find out what they truly want. Why do you want to move? Why do you want to sell? What's driving that? So you can really gain context on what their needs and wants are, so you can actually service them properly and make sure that everything they're looking for is met.
Awesome. So, if I'm hearing you right, it's easy to get hot and heavy when someone says, "Hey, I want to buy something, I want to sell something," but
Yeah, no,
step in
and
the
yeah,
back.
I mean, I was guilty of it early in my career, right? We want to. I mean, I don't know if this is a PG rated podcast, but we want to go straight to bed with them. We don't even want to buy them a drink, right? So sometimes you got to wine them and dine them, and like find out more information so you can truly serve them at the highest level.
Yeah, for what's important to them, right? Like,
Correct.
hey, this. Let's pause for a second. Let's find out why we're doing this, and then let's go from there. So that's awesome. Um, I think I talk about this a lot on the show with people, and I just want to continue to remind people. I think a lot of times buyers or sellers think, okay, I'm working with Byron. He's my real estate agent. He's gonna make it all happen. A lot of times people go either they're first time home buyers or they've gone years without buying property, and they forget how many people go into making a real estate transaction happen. So, Byron, when you think about your partners, right? Inspectors, contractors, insurance lenders, etc. How do you go about vetting those people so that you can create a good referral for your client?
Yeah, no, great question. Um, I think it's an ongoing thing, right? I think you're continually vetting all your partners, whether it's inspector, lender, whatever. You're always vetting them. You always want to make sure to see that they're communicating properly, they're doing what they say, they're providing good service. So it's also like after the transaction, asking your clients like kind of, hey, how did everything go? Give me any feedback, or like when we offer a vendor a paint or anything to anyone, right? I want to reach out to them after the job is done, or even during the middle of the job to find out how's everything going, because I want to know, like, all right, is this someone I'm going to continue to refer to people, or do I need to go find another one? Because things change, right? So and people
Yeah.
get out of the business, so I think it's something you're continually doing and vetting your vendor partners.
So we've talked to several people about this. Are you using some of these partners on your own personal things? Are you getting these referrals from other successful real estate agents? What does that look like for how you go about getting your partners?
Yeah, no, I think it's some of both, right? So some of it is personal vendors I've used myself that did a great job, and so like obviously, it's an easy conversation to have with them. Look, I'm in real estate. I think you did a great job. You know, are you okay with me referring you out to people? What's the best way to refer you out? Blah blah blah, and finding out. Also, it's leaning on some of your coworkers sometimes, because there might be someone that is in a specific area that maybe your go-to vendor doesn't work in. So it's like, hey, I got to reach out to them and find out who it is. So I think it's a little bit of both, of using them yourself plus leaning on other colleagues for good vendor references.
I'll tell you what, if you're a contractor or an HVAC guy or something, you show up to Byron's house, you might hit the gold mine. Like, okay, I'm doing this job, and I got a chance to get some referrals if I do a good job. So,
That's right.
um, so you kind of mentioned surrounding areas there, right? Charlotte Metro is kind of exploding at a rapid pace. Um, do you have areas that you find yourself focusing on in Charlotte, or are you extending out kind of in this kind of hour radius within the city at this point?
Uh, yeah, I mean, for the most part, like there's areas that we focus on. Um, so I don't do all of Charlotte. I do probably about an hour radius. Plus, I'm licensed in South Carolina, so I go down to the neighboring counties, Union County, Lancaster. I mean, sorry, Lancaster and York County, in South Carolina. Um, so I kind of try to focus on uh, South, where I live, because I know it very well. So the South part of Charlotte, some Southeast and Southwest, and then obviously down into those neighboring South Carolina counties.
Awesome.
Again, if I have someone that refers me a good friend and they're maybe a little outside of that, I'm not worried about going and doing the research and finding out. And some of those other areas like Concord, I know about because I have friends that live there. I've done some business there too. But yeah, I try to focus on these main areas.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Um, so if you think about, your last transaction, for example, how do you look back at deals you do and say, okay, I stuck to my process, but I could have improved X, right? Like, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think we always have to be evaluating our processes and always finding out, you know, where we went wrong or where we could have done something a little bit better. Not necessarily did something wrong, but we could have got a little bit better. So the next time, so we can just continue to, get better and better at our process. Because unfortunately, there's those people that have been in the business forever. They do it one way, and they're like, "Oh, I've done it this way forever," and they're not kind of open to looking at it and evaluating and seeing if there's a better way or if they can improve their process at all. And I really don't want to find myself stuck in a place where I don't think I can learn, because I think that's a bad place to be in. So it's just always kind of evaluating, because there's always things, and I think in every transaction, whether it be a small thing that you could tweak just to make it a better, process overall.
And if I'm hearing you correctly here, Byron, and I think maybe just a great kind of PSA for everybody listening is no real estate transactions ever the same. There are some wild things that could happen. I mean, heck, we've helped over 1,000 people do loans, and there's still scenarios that come up to us every day. I'm like, I got to talk to an underwriter to figure this one out.
It,
So can you talk about that? Like, what are some maybe some nuances and maybe quote unquote weird stuff that's come up when you've served clients?
Oh man, I'm trying to think. There's so many things. That's what's funny because it's funny because I had one not too long ago, and the agent was like, she'd been in the business for a while because she told me a few times, but she's like, I've never seen this happen before. And to me, it was like I see something new every transaction. It's like the fact that you say you've never seen this happen before and you feel like it's something odd. It's kind of crazy because there are so many intricacies and so many different things that can happen in a transaction that it's like you always have to be willing to learn and expect the unexpected because it always happens. Like that's one great thing about this business is nothing's ever the same, right?
Right.
The process, the paperwork, the process is always the same, but the things that happen inside the transaction always vary. So you're always able to learn something new. So I don't know that there's one specific thing that I can point to, but I would say you always have to be ready for anything.
Well, I think your mindset towards continuous learning and hey, each family I get the opportunity to help, I'm helping them, buy or sell something, but I'm also learning something new within my career, my business that I'm doing every day.
Correct. Yeah.
So you'll be prepared when that comes up again, right?
Hopefully, like some of those things I hope never come up again, but I should be much better prepared if they do.
Well, cool. So Byron, we always like to make people a little uncomfortable on this podcast because you got to talk about yourself here a little bit. So if we were to put you in the shoes of one of your past clients, what would they say about Byron Mims?
Oh man, yeah, that is getting a little uncomfortable. I think they would say that they know that I have empathy towards them, that I'm looking out for their best interest, that I communicated well, and that I did right by them. At least that's what I would hope they would say. But I think that's what they would say about me because I always have care and compassion for my clients, right? Empathy. I'm always looking to represent them and have the best outcome for them, whether it's buying or selling, and make sure because I don't. I want my clients to be forever clients, long-term clients. Like I'm not looking to be transactional. One of my favorite things about the business is the relationships you build with people and different people. They're all different. So that's to me is like that's the best part about the business.
Awesome. Awesome. So you mentioned that. What are some things that you do post closing? How do you continue to keep in touch with your clients? What are some things you're providing for them post closing?
Yeah, no, well, so I always try to obviously after closing, I try to reach out like 30, 60, and 90 just to check in. Hey, is everything going okay with the house? Do you need any vendors? Are you looking to do any renovations? Stuff like that. Obviously, small things I think, which I think people disregard sometimes, but just a happy home anniversary, once a year. Also, just checking in to give them kind of a yearly, hey, here's a check on your equity, what you potentially have, what your home might be valued at. Just small things like that, and I mean even just small, hey, make sure you know their birthday to reach out. It's you probably get it right. You feel good when someone tells you happy
Of
birthday.
course.
It's a small gesture, but it makes you feel good. I think that's the thing about this business is just continually just small touches with your clients, checking in on them, seeing what you can do for them, and that's what keeps your clients coming back to you.
Well, I think something you mentioned there is the kind of, annual equity status for people. And I think that's what homeowners ultimately love their home. It provides shelter for them, but they're also curious, like, hey, how much is this thing worth? Right. Um, so is there any tool in particular? Or are you just running like an annual CMA for people? What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a couple tools. So I mean, usually, so there's one that's called it's called RPR, Realtor Property. I forget what the last R is, but it's one of the tools we have that you can go in and kind of do a report on it. And again, it's just like a general report because basically, like most people aren't looking to sell, but it gives you a general census of hey, what your home value is. So if they want to pull out equity, or if they want to pay off debt, something like that, or potentially if they are thinking about selling. But it's just obviously good information for them because like you said, people always want to know what their home's worth regardless of whether they're thinking about selling or not.
Byron Mims has 2 days off from real estate. He's
Oh man, 2 days off. Well, I mean, golfing. Not that I'm that good at it. You can attest to that, but I don't mind getting out on the golf course. I got a little place up in the mountains, so I love going up to the mountains, getting a hike in, just doing stuff like that. But or locally, like any kind of little concerts or stuff, just to hang out. And a lot of times it might just be hanging out, depending on the time of year, but hanging out at home by the pool with the fam.
Awesome. Awesome. Favorite restaurant in Charlotte?
Ooh, tough question. Favorite restaurant in Charlotte. So 131 Main is probably one of my favorite restaurants. I think it's really good. So I would say 131 Main is up there for me.
Tough to go wrong. Never had a bad meal there.
Yeah.
And then, we might alienate some people with this question, but you also might get some diehards with you here. So will the Dallas Cowboys win the Super Bowl, or will Jerry Jones sell the team before that happens?
Man, as big a Cowboy fan as I am, I don't think we'll sniff another Super Bowl until Jerry, passes along to the great white pearly gates, if that's what he's headed. Yeah, unfortunately, man, I don't. But I think they're better than most people think this year. So.
All right. Well, then we got to ask you the Charlotte focus question I've asked everyone. Do the Carolina Panthers make the playoffs this year?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. That's a common answer so far. But I
Yeah,
think they might. I think they might shock a couple people here. I know we're not off to a great start, but I think we might turn it around.
Listen, I would love to see it. Obviously, the city's a lot funner when you have a team that's competing. But yeah, I don't see it. I think they're going to win more games than they won last year, but not by much.
Okay. Well, awesome. Byron, thanks for spending time with us today. I appreciate your insights into the market, into your process, how you go about buying and helping your clients buy and sell real estate. So appreciate you being with us. Hey, how can people get in touch with you after listening to this if they want to talk to you more?
Awesome. Well, you can follow me on the Facebook or social. I mean, it's easy to find me. Byron Mims, Realtor, probably is what I don't even know what my handle is, so that's bad. But reach out 972-741-5501 or byronmims@kw.com is the best way to reach me.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Byron. We've enjoyed having you on, man, and look forward to talking to you soon.
It's been a pleasure, Drew. Thanks, man.
All right. Bye.